My name is Jessica Monroe. I'm 28 years old, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina. By day, I work as a pediatric nurse, the kind of job where people think you're an angel in scrubs. They see the soft smile, the gentle hands, the way I kneel down to meet frightened children at eye level. And yes, I love what I do, helping the small, the fragile, the voiceless. It feels like purpose, but what people don't see is the shadow I carry, a wound that doesn't heal, a story I've kept buried, and tonight, pause, I'm finally ready to tell it. Confession tone, low voicedo. You know what it feels like to be attacked in your own home, to realize the man your mother chose her protector was nothing more than a predator? I do, and worse than the attack, worse than the fear that paralyzed me, was the silence, my mother's silence, her refusal to believe me, her refusal to protect me. That night broke me, but it also lit something inside me, something I didn't even know I had, revenge. And years later, when the world least expected it, I struck back. Quiet, calculated, final, but to understand how I got there, you need to know where it all began. I wasn't born into chaos. My early childhood, before he entered the picture, was gentle. It was just me and Mom Linda. She was 24 when she had me, too young, too unprepared, but fiercely loving in her own flawed way. My father? He left when I was still in diapers. A shadow, a name I've never spoken to this day. So it was us, just us. I remember the small rented house we shared. White siding, peeling paint, a porch that creaked under our footsteps. I remember summer nights with the windows open, cicadas humming, Mom braiding my hair on the couch while we watched reruns of Friends. She worked long shifts as a waitress at a diner off the highway. I would do my homework in a booth until her shift ended, sipping on free cherry sodas. The cook would sneak me. We didn't have much, but it was enough. She used to tell me, "Jess, one day it's going to be you and me against the world. Don't ever forget that." And I didn't. Not then. Everything changed when I was 12. That's when Mom met Mark Whitfield. He was tall, charming, in that loud salesman way. He worked in construction management, at least that's what he claimed. He smelled of cologne that was always a little too strong, like he was covering something up. At first, I wanted to like him. I wanted Mom to be happy. He made her laugh. He took her out to dinners we could never afford before. He bought me little gifts, bracelets, a new backpack for school. For a moment, it felt like maybe we weren't just surviving anymore. Maybe we were living, but kids have instincts. And mine whispered, something isn't right. He was too watchful of me. His eyes lingered too long when he thought no one noticed. His compliments felt slippery, sticky. I told myself I was imagining it, because Mom was glowing, and how could I take that from her? They got married the summer I turned 14, a backyard wedding with paper lanterns and barbecue ribs. Mom looked radiant in a lace dress she bought secondhand. I remember clapping when they kissed, trying to ignore the nausea curling in my stomach, because by then, I already knew Mark wasn't just a little off. He had a temper. He drank too much. And sometimes, late at night, I'd hear their fights, his voice like thunder, hers trembling like glass about to shatter. But she stayed, and she smiled in the morning like nothing happened. By the time I was in high school, Mark had inserted himself into every corner of our lives. He managed the finances, controlled what we ate, decided where we went. He didn't like me hanging out with friends. He didn't like me closing my bedroom door, and my mom, who once swore it would be us against the world, she just agreed with him. When I pushed back, she would sigh and say, "Jess, he's trying. Don't make things harder than they already are." That sentence burned itself into my memory, because it was the first time I realized she would always choose him over me. I wish I could say it was sudden. That one night, out of nowhere, my world shattered, but the truth is, the signs were there. The way his hand lingered too long on my shoulder, the way his eyes scanned me when I walked into the kitchen in my pajamas, the way he'd make jokes that weren't jokes at all, and the way Mom never seemed to notice, or maybe she noticed and pretended not to. Which is worse? I still don't know. The night it finally happened, I was 16. It was past midnight. The house was silent. And Mark paused, voice lowering. "No, not yet. I'll tell you about that night in the next part. But first, you need to understand the silence that built up to it. The way Mom's silence became a cage around me. The way betrayal seeps in, not with one explosion, but with 100 tiny cuts, because betrayal doesn't just happen in a single moment. It grows, it waits, it poisons, and by the time you realize it's happening, you're already drowning. The night that changed everything came when I was 16. It was late summer. The kind of night where the air felt heavy, almost sticky, and the cicadas sang so loudly it was like they were trying to drown out the silence of the house. Mom had gone to bed early after a double shift. I remember hearing her door shut, the soft creak of her footsteps across the hall, and then nothing. The clock in my room glowed 12:17 a.m. I couldn't sleep. My homework was still spread across the desk, my lamp casting a weak circle of light. I was reading over an essay draft when I heard the floorboards outside my room. Slow, measured, not the kind of walk you make when you're just grabbing a glass of water. My stomach nodded. Then came the knock. 3 soft taps against my door. "Jess," Mark's voice whispered, low and slurred. "You awake?" I froze, didn't answer, prayed he'd go away, but the handle turned. Slowly, I had locked it, but the lock was cheap, flimsy. I knew it wouldn't hold, and it didn't. The door creaked open, and there he was. Mark. He stood in the doorway, swaying slightly, beer still in his hand. His shirt was unbuttoned halfway down, his eyes glassy, but too sharp at the same time. "What are you doing up?" I whispered, my voice barely there. He smiled. That kind of smile that makes your skin crawl. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd check on my girl, my girl." The way he said it made me want to claw my skin off. I stood, pushing back my chair. "You need to leave," but he stepped inside instead, shutting the door behind him. That click, that tiny click of the door shutting, I swear I can still hear it. He crossed the room slowly, like a predator who already knew the prey had nowhere to run. "Don't be so tense, Jess," he said softly. "You're too pretty to frown like that." I backed up until my legs hit the edge of my bed. My pulse was hammering so hard I thought I'd faint. "Mark," I tried to sound steady, but my voice shook. "If Mom wakes up," he cut me off with a laugh, low and cruel. "She won't. She sleeps like the dead after those shifts. Don't worry, sweetheart, sweetheart." The word made bile rise in my throat, and then his hand was on my arm. Tight, too tight. I tried to jerk away. "Stop, let go of me." His face hardened, and in that second, I saw the mask drop, the charm, the smile, the jokes. All of it fell away, and what was left was something dark, something that wanted to own me. I fought. I kicked, scratched, screamed, but his hand clamped over my mouth, cutting off the sound. The room spun. My chest burned, and I thought, this is it. This is the night my life ends. I don't know how long it lasted. Time fractured. It felt endless, and when it was over, I was shaking. Curled into myself on the bed, Mark stood, straightening his shirt, like nothing happened. Don't look at me like that, he muttered. You wanted this. You were teasing me for months. I wanted to scream, to tear his face apart, but my voice wouldn't work, and then he left, just like that, closed the door softly behind him, like he just wished me good night. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, every nerve screaming. And then I ran. I stumbled down the hall, still shaking, until I reached my mother's room. I didn't knock. I pushed the door open, whispering, "Mom, Mom, please, wake up." She stirred, groggy, confused. "Jess, what is it? What's wrong?" And then she saw my face, my tears, the way my body was trembling. "Mom," I whispered, my voice breaking. "It's Mark. He came into my room. He touched me. Her eyes widened, and for a split second, I thought she'd believe me. I thought she'd leap from the bed, march down the hall, throw him out of the house, but instead she closed her eyes. Her jaw clenched. "Jessica," she whispered, her voice sharp, almost like a hiss. "Do you have any idea what you're saying?" "I'm telling you the truth," I cried. He hurt me, Mom." He stopped. Her voice cracked like a whip. "Do you want to ruin us? Do you want to ruin me? After everything he's done for us? The house, the bills, the food on our table, do you want to throw it all away with lies?" I stared at her, my heart breaking in real time. "Lies," I whispered. She turned away, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. "Go back to your room, Jessica, and don't you ever speak of this again." Her silence was worse than his hands, because it meant I was alone. That was the night I stopped being a child. I still lived under their roof, but I wasn't really there. I moved through school like a ghost. I smiled when people expected it, laughed when I had to, but inside I was hollow, and Mark knew it. He'd smirk when we passed in the hallway, brush a hand against my shoulder in front of Mom, daring me to flinch, and Mom, she never looked at me the same again. Like I had ruined something sacred, like I had become the problem. The betrayal wasn't just one night. It was every day after, every breakfast at the table where she chatted with him, like nothing happened. Every family photo where I forced a smile while standing next to my monster. Every time I begged her silently with my eyes, and she looked away. That silence, it killed me more slowly than any wound ever could. But here's the thing. When someone breaks you like that, when they rip apart your trust, your safety, your childhood, something else takes root in the cracks. I didn't know it then. Not at 16, but deep inside me, revenge was already beginning to grow. After that night, I stopped living. I went to school. I went to work at a diner on weekends. I did my homework. But inside, I wasn't there. It felt like I had been pushed underwater, and the world kept moving above me while I drifted further and further down. The first cracks showed in my grades. I used to be the girl who turned in every assignment early, who color-coded her notes, but after that night, I'd sit staring at the paper, the words swimming. Every time I tried to focus, I'd hear his voice in the hallway, or feel his hand on my arm again. My teachers noticed. "Jessica, you're distracted. You're not yourself." How could I tell them why? I started skipping school, wandering the back roads of our small town, hiding in the library until it closed. At home it was worse. Every dinner was a performance. Mom would talk about her shifts, about bills, about neighbors. Mark would laugh, joke, ask about my day like nothing happened. And me? I'd sit there, chewing silently, trying not to choke on the rage burning in my throat. Sometimes, late at night, I'd hear them in their room, Mom laughing at one of his stupid jokes. That laughter cut me deeper than anything he'd ever done, because it meant she chose him over me, over the truth. By 17, I was counting down days. I had one goal: get out. I applied for every scholarship I could find, every program that would take me out of North Carolina. The acceptance letters became my lifeline. When I finally got into a small college in Ohio, I packed everything I owned into 2 duffel bags. Mom didn't even help. College is expensive, she said coldly. You better not waste it. No hug, no tears, just cold. Mark smirked when he loaded my bags into the trunk. Don't be a stranger, kiddo. Like I was just some neighbor's daughter heading off to school. Like he hadn't destroyed my childhood. I swore to myself, right there in that driveway, that I'd never set foot in that house again. And for years I didn't. College was freedom, but it was also exile. I was free from Mark, free from my mother's silence, but I was also free of home. I had no family to call, no one to visit during the holidays. I watched my roommates FaceTime their moms every night. I listened to them laugh with their siblings over the phone, and I sat in silence, pretending homework kept me too busy. I dated a little, but anytime someone got too close, anytime a hand lingered too long on my shoulder, I'd freeze. The memories flooded back, and I'd push them away before they had the chance to hurt me. Loneliness became my companion, but so did determination. I threw myself into my studies. Criminal justice. Something about it called to me. Maybe it was the idea of laws that didn't bend to silence. Maybe it was the idea of justice being written in black and white, clear, undeniable. Not like my mother's shifting eyes. By the time I graduated, I wasn't the same girl who left home with 2 duffels. I was sharper, harder, and beneath it all I carried a fire, not just to build a life, but to one day make them face what they did. My 20s were functional. I found work as a paralegal in Cincinnati. The pay wasn't much, but the job gave me access to the system. Lawyers, judges, police, the very people who lived and breathed justice. And every time I typed up a case file, every time I prepared exhibits for court, I imagined, what if that was me? What if my story was laid bare for the world to see? But I wasn't ready yet, not emotionally. I still had nights where I woke up screaming, still had mornings where I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. So I built myself, piece by fragile piece, therapy sessions I could barely afford, workouts at dawn, pounding away the rage on a treadmill, journals filled with words I'd never spoken aloud. And slowly I became whole, not healed, not yet, but whole enough to stand. The turning point came the year I turned 28. I was at the courthouse late one night, finishing paperwork for a domestic violence case. The woman's story was brutal. Her husband had broken her ribs, threatened her life, and yet she found the courage to testify. I sat there staring at her deposition, her trembling handwriting on the official record, and I thought, if she can speak, why can't I? The fire that had been simmering inside me for over a decade suddenly roared to life. I realized I didn't just want to heal. I wanted revenge, not the kind you see in movies. Not a gun, not blood, not chaos, but something colder, sharper. I wanted Mark exposed. I wanted my mother stripped of her excuses. I wanted the world to see them for what they really were. That night, I closed my journal and wrote a new heading. The first step was gathering evidence. I still had my old journals, the ones I kept through high school. The ones where 16-year-old me scribbled down every fear, every detail. I had names of friends who noticed bruises, teachers who asked why I was falling apart. I had memories painful, yes, but memories that aligned with facts, dates, times, and most of all, I had time. Time had hardened me, not broken me. I wasn't a scared teenager anymore. I was a woman with a career, a voice, and the knowledge of exactly where to strike. Mark thought he got away with it. My mother thought her silence buried it, but I was coming back. And when I did, I wouldn't just confront them. I destroyed the illusion they built around themselves. I always thought revenge would come in one fiery strike, a single moment where everything exploded. But real revenge, real justice, it's quieter, it's slower, it seeps into the cracks of someone's perfect life until it rots from the inside out. That was the path I chose. The first night I reopened those old journals, my hands shook, the handwriting was messy. Some words were smudged with tears, but the details were clear. March 14, he came into my room again. Mom heard. She turned up the TV. May 6, I told her. She told me to stop lying, page after page. The voice of a girl no one believed, reading. It hurt, but it was also proof. Proof that I didn't just imagine it. Proof that I fought to survive. I scanned every page, saved them in locked folders, printed copies and sealed them in envelopes, hidden in different places. I wasn't just documenting my past. I was preparing ammunition. I started with small connections. One was Mrs. Carter, my old English teacher. She always asked why my essays got darker as the year went on. I tracked her down. She was retired, living in Asheville. When I called, my voice trembled. Do you remember me? Jessica Miller, class of 2008. She hesitated, then said softly, Jessica, I remember you. You always wrote like you were carrying the weight of the world. I swallowed. I need to ask, do you remember noticing anything about me? There was silence, then a sigh. Yes, I remember the bruises. I remember you always looked afraid, but when I asked, you never answered. My chest tightened. If I ever needed you to put that in writing, would you? Her voice was firm. Yes, I should have spoken then. If you ask me now, I will. That was the first crack, then came others. A friend from high school who once walked me home because I was too scared to be alone. A neighbor who saw Mark yelling at me in the driveway. Even a doctor's note from an older visit, unexplained shoulder injury. Each piece by itself was nothing. But together they painted the picture. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I wanted them to feel something shift before they even knew what it was. So I made my move in their world, their community. Mark was a deacon now. Church every Sunday, smiling, shaking hands, preaching family values. My mother played the role of loyal wife, sitting in the front pew, nodding along. Perfect, untouchable, until the first envelope arrived. Inside, a single photocopied journal page. No name, no signature, just words in teenage handwriting. March 14. He came into my room again. Mom heard. She turned up the TV. I mailed it to their pastor. 2 weeks later, I heard from a cousin back home, "Hey, Jess, weird question. Did something happen between you and Mark when you were younger? People are talking, exactly what I wanted." I fed the whispers carefully. An anonymous email to the church board. Another to Mom's workplace. One envelope slipped into the mailbox of their next-door neighbor. Nothing screamed accusation. Just pieces of truth. Just enough to make people wonder, and they did wonder. Mark stopped posting his Sunday family photos online. Mom started calling relatives, reassuring them everything was fine, but the more they tried to control the story, the more suspicious they looked. It was my mother who cracked first. She called me one night. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Jessica." Her voice was tight, frantic. "What are you doing?" I leaned back in my chair, calm. "I don't know what you mean. Don't play with me. These letters, these lies." My voice sharpened. "You think a 16-year-old girl wrote those words for fun? You think I made it up?" She was breathing hard. "You're trying to ruin us." "No," I said coldly. "I'm trying to show people the truth. The truth you buried for him." For a moment, silence. Then a whisper. "He'll deny it. Everyone will believe him." I almost laughed. "Then let's see. Let's see how long their faith lasts when every detail starts matching up." I hung up. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. Whispers weren't enough anymore. I wanted it loud, public, unstoppable. So I wrote my story. Every word, every memory, names, dates, details. And I sent it to a local journalist who covered abuse scandals. She called me back after reading. "Jessica, this is going to burn everything down." "Good," I said. "Let it." She asked if I was ready for backlash. I was, because I wasn't just that scared teenager anymore. I was a woman holding the match. The article was set to publish on a Sunday morning. Saturday night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the draft, Mark's name in print. My mother's silence laid bare. Every secret stripped away. I thought I'd feel relief, but instead I felt trembling anticipation, because once it went live, there was no turning back. The morning it all broke, I woke before sunrise. I didn't even need an alarm. My body knew. The article went live at 6 o'clock by 6:07. My phone buzzed. By 6:15, it wouldn't stop ringing. The headline was simple, almost clinical. "Local deacon accused of years of abuse. Stepdaughter speaks out." Underneath, there was my story. My words, my journals, my scars, and my mother's silence. The article didn't sensationalize. It just laid the truth out piece by piece. Dates, witness accounts, medical notes, the pastor's quiet acknowledgement of concerns. There it was. My life, the part they tried to bury, printed in black and white for the world to see. By 8 o'clock a.m., Mark's Facebook page was gone. By 9 o'clock a.m., someone spray-painted "monster" across his church's front doors. By noon, reporters were at the end of their driveway, cameras rolling, and by evening they were both calling me. I didn't answer. Instead, I answered strangers. Messages poured in. Other women, other girls, some I knew, most I didn't. "I believe you. He did the same to me. Your courage gave me a voice." I cried that night, not because I was broken, but because, for once, I wasn't alone. The silence had cracked open, and voices came pouring out. 3 days later, she came to me. I heard the knock at my door, soft but urgent. When I opened it, there she was. No makeup, eyes swollen. She looked smaller. Jessica, she whispered. I didn't step aside. Why are you here? Her lips trembled. Everything's falling apart. He says it's all lies. But people believe you. The church. My job. I've lost everything. I stared. My voice was ice. You lost everything? Or you protected him until it cost you everything? Tears slid down her face. I thought if I ignored it would go away. I couldn't face it. Pause, you mean you couldn't face him? My throat tightened. You chose him. Every time. And now you don't get to cry to me. She reached for me. Jessica, I was weak. Please, help me fix this. I stepped back. My voice broke, but I didn't let it soften. I begged you when I was a child, and you turned away. I will never ever help you again. And I shut the door in her face. It was a week later when Mark finally tried, not through calls, not through messages. He showed up. At my work, I was walking out of the hospital after my shift when I saw him leaning against his car, older now, lines on his face, but the same eyes, the same predator hiding behind fake calm. Jessica, he said, voice low, almost gentle. We need to talk. I froze, then forced myself to step closer, not trembling, not the girl anymore. There's nothing left to talk about. He raised his hands. You're destroying me, our family. Your mother, she destroyed herself. I snapped. And you? You did this the second you walked into my room. His mask slipped. For just a second, I saw the anger underneath. The same anger I'd seen as a child. When the door clicked shut at night, he hissed, You'll regret this. No one will remember in a year. They'll move on, and you'll just be bitter. I stepped forward until I was inches from his face. My voice was steady. No, Mark, you will be the bitter one. You'll wake up every day with everyone knowing exactly what you are. And me? I'll wake up free. For the first time in my life, he stepped back from me. That was my victory. The legal system moved slower, but it moved. Investigations opened. Old whispers turned into testimonies. And then came the real twist, another woman. Not me. Someone else who finally spoke after reading my story. Her account matched mine. Same patterns. Same method. Suddenly, it wasn't just my word. It was his past unraveling. He wasn't just a deacon anymore. He was an exposed predator. Months later, I walked by that church. The doors were still stained with faint red paint from the word monster. Inside, they had a new deacon, a new sermon. Life moved on, but not for them. My mother lived in a small apartment now, alone. Mark was still fighting the system, drowning in lawyers, whispers, and ruined reputation. And me? I was still healing, slowly, painfully, but this time it was my silence that was over. I didn't forgive them. I didn't need to, because revenge wasn't the fire. It was the ash, the quiet that came after everything burned down. And in that quiet, for the first time, I could finally breathe.